Hi, I'm back. I'm back. Long time no see. 1 week turned into 2 weeks, turned into 3 weeks, turned into a month. But if you missed it, the reason for the absence is I just got back from France. I never thought that my artwork would have taken me to France, but 2024 was my year. My small business took me the whole way across the world, not even across the world, took me over the ocean, and I got to go to France, and it was unbelievable. It's the coolest. So I'm gonna tell you all about it. The inspiration that is flooding my brain after this trip is crazy. This isn't an art related video, more of like a life update and trip recap. I decided I'm gonna do probably a 2-part video because I did Paris and then the French countryside, which are 2 very different things. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into the video. Here's a little France recap. I hope you enjoy. In case you're wondering, like, how on earth did this happen? Let me give you a backstory. About a year ago, I was approached by Cassie, who hosts retreats. Her company is Wandering Women Retreats, and she reached out to me, and she'd been following my page for a little bit. She was familiar with my art. She was looking for an artist to teach in her 2024 France retreat. We stayed in the countryside in a chateau, and my job for the week was to teach 4 workshops. And I'll get more into that in part 2, because part 2 is where I want to show you everything about the chateau and the countryside. Part 1 is all about my time in Paris, because that too was like unreal. It was so cool. So anyway, all that to say, Cassie found me on Instagram in a year where I'm like, is my stuff even getting seen? Is anyone even hearing me on Instagram? Is this even worth it anymore? Blah, blah, blah. A little word of encouragement. Don't give up. Instagram still works. People are still seeing your work. Keep going. Because if I had given up on Instagram, this wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have gotten to go to France, and I wouldn't have got to meet all the cool people and seen all the beautiful things. So that's how this came to be. Another thing, total side note, I switched my studio. So when I came home, we got our carpets replaced because we're crazy people, and we were like, let's just get it done. And so we got our carpets replaced. We moved all of our furniture. I packed up all my studio the day I got home, and so my girls and I are doing a little switcheroo of the rooms. And so my studio is their old room, and their old room is now my studio. That's why the light switch is not on. And because we're painting the walls, we haven't gotten to this room yet, but this is a new studio. That's why the walls are all blank and there's nothing here. Soon enough, I'm gonna redo everything, and it's gonna be really beautiful. That's why the wall's blank. That's why the light switch is off. Back to Paris and all of that, and my trip and everything. I had to reread the email a gazillion times. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real? I showed the email to my husband, and we were both looking at it. We're like, I think this is legit. I think this is real. And so I called her. We got on the phone the next day. She told me all about it. I taught watercolor floral, watercolor landscape, and I did an acrylic floral workshop. So that's what I was in France to do. At first, when I read the email and I got off the phone with Cassie, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like the timing's right. I feel like we're in a place where I can do this right now. I feel like this is good, but like, that's a huge deal. I've never been to Europe before. I don't even have a passport. Like, I had never had any reason for a passport. So I like don't even have a passport. I'm such a homebody. I've never been away from my girls for that long. Usually the roles are reversed. My husband's in the military, but he's usually the one who's gone for work, not me. Ultimately, I said yes. So it was about a year ago, and fast forward up to a few months ago, a lot of prep went into this. Not only was I preparing what I was going to teach, how I was going to teach it, it was curating the supply list, because, you know, we're in Europe. Like, getting supplies is not accessible. So everyone was traveling with their own supplies. I had to make sure that I had extras. So I needed to make sure that everything we needed was on the supply list for a week's worth of art. And so there's just a lot of kind of like layers to keep in mind when preparing for a workshop, and not just one, but three. You got to make sure you have everything you need. You have to make sure that there's room for flexibility in case something goes wrong. You have to make sure that what you're teaching is beginner level, but also for those more seasoned artists, you want to make sure that there's room for them to kind of, you know, you don't want it to be too easy for the seasoned artists because you want them to enjoy the workshop as well. So there's a lot of variables to keep in mind when preparing for a workshop. We did trial runs and run-throughs with my family and my friends, and in doing trial runs, every one of my friends, my husband, my family, like even my brother came in for one of the workshops. I feel like I was really well prepared, and we ironed out all the little kinks in the plan. So anyway, the prep required a lot more time than I had initially anticipated, but I got to paint a lot. It was just really fun. I painted a ton in preparation for these workshops. I just wanted to make sure that it was something that checked all the boxes and what would be considered a good workshop piece to paint, you know? So that was something I really loved about the prep. The painting aspect of it was really fun. And practicing and doing this and sharing my art with my friends and family was so fun. In terms of my art and my work, I think a lot of people don't really get to fully experience like what I do. I think I'm the girl, I'm the friend, and the person and family who, like, I work from home. I post on Instagram, I sell my art, I have my art in stores, but like I don't really get to like share my work and my art and my love for what I do in this way. So it was really fun to be able to do trial runs and run-throughs with my friends and family. So I'm super thankful for them, and I learned a lot, so it was good. So that brings us to like the actual getting to Europe and getting me there. I feel like my husband was my biggest cheerleader. I was really anxious to fly. I have this like really awful fear of crashing airplanes. It's insane. It's weird. I don't know where it comes from, but I haven't always had a fear of planes, but I do now, and that is what it is. Also, leaving the girls was really hard. This was the first time I left my girls. They're 9 and 10. And this was the first time I had really done that. The night before I left, I was saying goodnight to my daughter, and she looked funny, and I was like, oh no. And then I looked at her and she just started bawling. And so naturally I cried too. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Why am I doing this? This is insane. We cried it out, all was well. And my husband was home with them the entire time. He was off of work and was able to be here. They had a blast. They ended up having an absolute blast. They were well taken care of, had the time of their life with their daddy. So all was well. It was just, you know, heightened emotions before I left. So yeah, the travel to Europe was fine. It is what it is. I, for one, do not sleep on planes. I don't know how people do. I think that's wild if you can just like knock out and like sleep on a plane. So side note, I'm hearing impaired. I think I've mentioned that before. So I'm hearing impaired. These types of situations where I'm traveling with people, walking places with people in loud settings, different languages, accents, any of that's really hard to, I just have to be extra aware of my surroundings, and I read lips a lot. So that's why those types of situations are really challenging. So when we got to the airport in Paris, my luggage was really, really heavy. It was almost 200 pounds of luggage because I had most of it was art supplies, and then things that I needed for a week for like gifts for the ladies of the retreat. It was art supplies, my camera, all of it ended up being close to 200 pounds, and I was deliriously tired. I was traveling with a girl who actually lives in the town over from me, and she didn't have quite as much luggage as I did, so she was kind of like walking ahead of me the entire time. I was trying my hardest to keep up, but like she was walking ahead of me. I couldn't hear a word she was saying. Getting out of the airport ended up being like really frustrating because I had no idea what we were looking for. She knew what we were looking for, but I couldn't understand what she was saying. And I'd asked so many times and I was like, I can't anymore. Like, I'm done. And then just trying to like muster up enough energy to get this luggage out of the airport to be able to drop off at the hotel. Next time around, I will be traveling very light. I will never travel heavy again. I will bring minimal supplies because I myself can travel really light. But when it was all the art supplies and everything, all the, you know, there's a lot of factors involved why my bag was so heavy. But so anyway, now to the good part. Getting to Paris was, you know, in the movies when the person is coming, they get to the city and then they're coming out of like the dark dungeon of the metro or the subway or whatever. And then like they come out and like, they're like, wow. And like you see the city for the first time and they're just like mesmerized. And yeah, that's how it felt. That is exactly how it felt. Seeing Paris for the first time was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Everything is so beautiful. You know, a lot of our cities and a lot of our architecture is inspired by European architecture, obviously, because that's where our people came from. But we get like little itty bitty touches of European architecture in our cities. It's like you take that and multiply it by a gazillion. It's unreal. I honestly could have just taken that day and looked at it and just sat on a bench and watched for a good while. But who I was traveling with, she very much had like, she was like, let's go, 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 go. She wanted to see all of Paris. So I am the kind of person, I'm just gonna like tag along and do what they want to do. And so we did. And we saw so much in Paris because we were, didn't stop. We walked so much. So what did we do? Let me think. Once we got into Paris, navigated the whole metro situation. That was tricky. Had I known how difficult that was going to be, I definitely would have prepped more for that. So I knew more of what I was doing because I was no help in navigating the metro. But taking it was fun. I enjoyed being along for the ride. So once we got off the metro, got into Paris, took it all in, grabbed breakfast quick, went to a cute little cafe because there's cafes literally everywhere and all of them are so cute. Everything is so cute. Nothing is ugly. Something that occurred to me after the first day, you hear a lot how dirty Paris is, but with the Olympics coming up, I think they were on their best behavior and it was clean. Like clean as ever. I think I saw like one little mound of trash and that was it, but it was so clean, which was really nice. So we went and got a little breakfast, some coffee at the first cafe that we walked past. I'll be honest, I was really bad about capturing everything that we did. I went into this being like, Annie, you're gonna walk in, you're gonna document everything, you're gonna take videos, you're gonna take pictures of everything you do, and I didn't. I wish I did. But I do very much get like, I'm in the moment and stay in the moment, and I'm really, really bad about taking photos of everything. I definitely took more photos than I would have had I not been intentional about it. So this cafe was beautiful. There was huge windows, yummy little breakfast, and it was overlooking the street. And walking outside of the cafe, I was like, the city's really quiet, which wasn't really expected because here we're used to really loud cities, but Paris, there's not as many cars. There's like Vespas and people ride bikes and they walk a lot. So that was something that was really funny to me and sweet. It was pretty quiet. I like that part of it. Next thing, we went to museum. I'm gonna butcher these names because I can't speak French. So it was the d'Orsay, I think is how you say it. I don't know. But it was huge. We only got about halfway through the museum, but there was Rembrandt, Van Gogh, Renoir, Degas, like all the big ones. And it was the coolest. That was one of my favorite spots. We also, that day we went to see the Eiffel Tower, which was so cool. A lot of people told me before the trip, they were like, the Eiffel Tower is kind of underwhelming, and I was not underwhelmed. It was so cool. It's such an iconic structure, I was very, very blown away. It was so cool seeing it in person, and the Olympic rings were on it, so that was really cool to see that too. And then so got back to the hotel kind of late that night. Well, not late, but I had been up for like almost 2 days by the time I got to sleep that night. And then we went back to it the next day. We went into Paris. We did, I think there's another name I'm probably gonna butcher, Montmartre, is that what it's called? It's the town where Picasso lived. That may have been, I keep saying it, this is my favorite, but that may have been, it's up there with my favorite things that we did. It was so cool seeing where like the masters, like these artists, like the masters lived and created, and seeing what their surroundings were, what they were inspired by, and then seeing their artwork on display. Like these are like the art that, this is the art and the artists that we've studied all around the world, worldwide. We've studied them. We studied their work. We studied what they've done, their stories, their lives, and seeing where they lived and where they worked, and then their art on display, like their inspiration come through directly in their art, and seeing what they were inspired by was really cool. That really like was so cool as an artist. Seeing all of it, it was a very like, I don't know, it was very inspiring. I loved that part of the experience. We went to the church, the big church on the hill. I'm so bummed. Okay, so the mic was in my dress. My camera died, but I think we're back. I think we're back in business. I think we're good to go. So anyway, I think I left off at, we were climbing up the steps to the big church. And at the time I did not realize we were going up to the church. I just knew we were climbing up all the steps. Again, because the hearing impaired problems, there were a lot of things that I missed as far as like the French words and places where we were going. I kind of just like followed along for the ride. And so I didn't catch that we were walking up to the church, but I should have put the pieces together. I just didn't. So anyway, we walk up from the metro all the way up a gazillion flights of stairs just to get to like ground level. And then we walk up a gazillion more stairs up to the church, and we get there, and the view from the top of the hill is unreal. Breathtaking, truly. And there were a ton of people, super touristy, but even still, like, it doesn't even take away from the experience. I mean, maybe it does, I don't know. Didn't to me. I still loved it. The view from the top of the city overlooking the entirety of Paris was so beautiful. Definitely a sight to see. So anyway, I didn't realize we were at the church, but we waited in the big long line. We got to the door. This is kind of like a funny side story. We got to the door, and the man was checking our bag, as they do, all the security and everything. And he's like, "You have a jacket?" Because I was wearing a tank top. And I was like, "Oh yeah." I thought he needed to check it, like the pockets or whatever, like a security thing. And then I get in there, and he was like, "You need to put the jacket on." I get in, I'm like, "Oh, we're at a church. Okay." So anyway, we get in there, and I was like, okay, so we're at the church. This is the church, and it was really beautiful. I really enjoyed that. That was really, really pretty. Again, super busy with a lot of people. It was weird being in a church with so many tourists. It was different, but what else? So after that, we did Montmartre, and so there was a bunch of cute little shops, some cafes on the road, and they were all super cute. The thing that I really loved about Paris was just like in the movies, like all the little chairs. I mean, the tables are tiny. That was funny. It was funny seeing that in real life. The tables are tiny, but all the chairs are overlooking, like facing the street, so that you can sit with your person and like watch everything, which, I mean, I think we all love people watching. So I don't know, I just thought that was really cute. After that, we did the Picasso Museum, which was another one of my favorite things that we did. I've never been a huge fan of Picasso. His art's weird. The dude was weird, you know, but like the museum was his full story and a humongous collection of his artwork, like everything, full story from start to finish of Picasso's life and art. His story is really relatable in a lot of ways, in the way that he kind of like emerged as an artist, and he wasn't always like, he didn't always create artwork in the way that we know Picasso, but he found his style. I definitely have like a whole new appreciation for him. I felt like a lot of his journey as an artist was something that probably many artists can relate to, and every time I felt that, I was like, well, call me Picasso, because we're basically the same. Just kidding. Anyway, it was really cool. I would absolutely go back, and there's so much to see. It's so cool. So we did the Picasso Museum, then we did the Luxembourg Gardens. We kind of just walked through. At that point, I was deliriously tired. My feet were on fire. I was done. So I love Luxembourg Gardens. Was basically like the Central Park of Paris. So you go and there's a bunch of lounge chairs. It's really beautiful too. So there's lounge chairs. You can take all the scenery in. The trees are so cute. They're all cut in squares, just like in the movies, like in Madeline. They all have the big tall trees with the squared off edges. Super cute. What else did we do that day? That was pretty much it. And then the next day, I stayed in the hotel because I needed to relax. Because again, I don't know if I've ever experienced this level of being deliriously tired, but I definitely did Paris, and that's what we set out to do. It was an absolute blast. I did not go to the Louvre, and I'm so bummed about that. I wasn't able to navigate the metro on my own, and the friend that I was traveling with didn't want to come back halfway through the day, so it was either decide to stay in the hotel all day and rest before the retreat, or stay out in Paris for a whole extra day and stay out really late before the retreat. And I couldn't do that. I was there for work, I was there to teach, and I needed to be rested. So ultimately I decided to stay back at the hotel. So that's why I was there 3 days before the retreat. We did Paris for 2 days, and we packed a lot in those 2 days, or at least the 2 days I was there. I was feeling so inspired, so much inspiration everywhere. So cool to see like the actual grounds and towns where that inspired like some of the greatest artworks that are known around the world, like the coolest. And there's flowers everywhere. The gardens are beautiful. There was one little cafe that had all the flowers above their sign, and there was like teddy bears mixed in. That was funny. It was a little goofy, but cute. There was like big red teddy bears like mixed in with these beautiful flowers and florals. It was different. Yeah, everywhere you look, there's like something new to see. The little cobblestone streets to all the beautiful doors, all the flower planters, everything was so crazy beautiful. That was Paris. That was part one. Part two will be all about the chateau, and that is the main reason and the main part of my trip. That's where I taught the art workshops. I just wanted to do Paris, to see Paris before, while I was there, you know, when in France, you gotta see Paris. Part two will be all about the retreat, the chateau. When I tell you this chateau and that week in that space requires a second video, you will see what I mean, because I have never experienced something as unbelievably beautiful as what I experienced in that chateau. The food, the flowers, the scenery, the decor, everything truly magical, unbelievable. And that's coming in part two, so stay tuned.